We should be on. All right. How's it going, everybody?
Hello, everybody.
So, all right. We got a lot to cover. There has been a lot going on. So, it's been a busy week. We've got we're going to talk about the executive minutes.
Yes.
We had talked about that as being kind of a little bit of a teaser from last week. We've got the caucus that happened on Monday, and we've got the meeting that just happened. We don't have the FinCom meeting that happened last night because I didn't see it posted and I wasn't able to attend. So we'll have to just see. Maybe we'll deal with that one next week.
Right.
So that sounds like a good plan.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So where do you want to start?
All right. So why don't we start chronologically?
Okay.
So we'll do the executive sessions.
All right. Make sure I get the right one.
Which one was one? Was that the treasure collector? No, that was two, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was two, I think.
All right. So
you want to do one first then?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to fade into that.
Quick.
And then, yeah, there you go.
So the first executive session was regarding the veteran service officer, and in this meeting was the 5 members of the board.
Mm-hmm.
The public present included Teresa Koski, who took the notes, Rod Kincaid, Marie Arsenal. Is this the right one?
No, that's the other one.
No, that's the right one.
Okay. Oh yeah. All right. Let's do it.
I don't think this is right though. No, I don't think it's right. So I think the minutes that were provided have the wrong public present. I think they just copied.
Oh, copied, cut and pasted.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But this is the right.
Yes.
It's the right set of minutes. All right.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about. Yeah. Okay. So
we'll talk real quickly in the agenda about the minutes as well. But this is for a board that is so hung up on minutes and getting the minutes right, and if you don't do the minutes right, we're going to disband your board because minutes are everything.
Right.
They don't look at their own minutes.
Right.
And it was hysterical to watch that meeting, and I guess I'm going to go into it. They had spent 5 minutes talking about minutes that they approved, but they couldn't have approved because they didn't have them.
Right. They did talk about. Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
And it's just like,
they did
come
talk
on.
about that.
That's something so simple that I don't get it.
No, I agree.
But
all right, we get a full agenda.
Yes,
so you're
okay.
going off on a tangent. We talked about this.
We talked about it already, and
you're already on a tangent. So
sorry.
It's okay. All right. So we've got the the minutes now that we're talking about are the executive session 1, which are the minutes about the veterans officer.
Correct.
I think. And so I guess there was a little bit of an issue about the payment, and I actually learned a lot from this because I didn't realize that there was a what's it called, a V6 and a V7.
Yes.
And
I just thought there was a V8.
And I wish I had one. No. That's
you're walking kind of.
We're not getting paid for these people,
you know?
so we can't say that. But anyway, so I guess there was an issue. I mean, that came to our attention through the accountant and through the state.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Just to start off, Martin Kelly stated that this executive session was suggested by the town auditors.
Right. So how could they? Well, I think it's interesting because could they invoke one of the executive session?
No, but I mean it was because of the fact that there was not.
They had to step in. They had to step in. Yeah. No, I get that part. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, 100%.
And that amazes me that it got so far, because there are certain people in this town that are untouchable on this board according to this board.
Right.
And people are scared of that.
Right.
And it took the auditors to come in and say, you got to have this.
They had to ring the bell a little bit and say, hey, you really do need to kind of pay attention to this.
Yeah.
And I mean, so just so people understand, you can read the minutes. The minutes are on the website. We kind of alluded to that. You can go onto the front page or the home page of the website for the town and click on minutes, and you'll see them on February 13th. But so there was a little bit of an issue about payments and the processing of paperwork that the state needed to reimburse the town. From what I understand, that was the way it was supposed to work. And so that and there was some issue about, timing and getting this all done. But the accountant basically stated that we needed to. Are we okay?
We're good.
Okay, I just want to make sure that audio and all that was working. So there was an issue of getting it done, getting the paperwork processed.
Right.
And
it's lagging a year behind.
A year behind. And so, and there was some suggestion, well, maybe we need some administrative help. It's 2 to 4 hours a month,
Right.
from what I understand. 2 to 4 hours a month that had been done by the previous. I mean, I never heard of anything coming from Marie
There was never any problem before.
that. Yeah. So, so 2 to 4 hours a month, and they need an administrative assistant or something to get it done. And there was some problem with, you have to get online, so you have to have permission. There's a password because these are confidential files, and so
Now, where does that username and password exist?
I think it's only the veterans assistant that should have it.
The veteran service officer.
The service officer, the VSO.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or the veterans agent.
Agent. That's what I was thinking. The
Yeah.
agent more so.
And
It changes names. So I guess it's a different name and a different.
community.
It got confusing to me, but for semantics, we're not going to go down that line. So
Yeah.
we'll it's the veterans agent or the VSO, depending on how you guys want to talk about it.
Right.
For us, that's all it is. For the people who know, probably it's way different. But
Right.
from our standpoint, the veterans agent. Okay. Anyway,
But
yeah. So they have the access to that paperwork.
and that's a state login that
It
I'm
is.
not so sure that a non-certified veteran service officer, and only a veteran can assume that title, should have access.
Right.
I can't imagine the state agreeing with, oh yeah, let's give it to Paul.
Right. No, I agree. It does sound like it ought to be like a double dog secret kind of relative thing,
Yeah,
that you
I mean,
can get in. And I don't even want to. It's 2 to 4 hours a week.
A month.
I mean, a month. It's even if it were 2 to 4 hours a week, it's you take on a responsibility. You got to get it done. You just got to get it done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There are plenty of people that, yeah. Anyhow, 2 to 4 hours a month should be not an assistant hourly need.
Right.
If that makes sense. I mean, the town shouldn't have to pay for an assistant to help for 2 to 4 hours a month for the processing of paperwork for the veterans.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, other than that,
Other than that-
there's other stuff. It's a good executive session. You'll
Yeah.
learn stuff.
Yeah, there's
some more information in it, but it's more just process.
Yeah, it is really. It's interesting. It's eye-opening as far as like, what has to happen and how the town gets reimbursed and the communication between the state and the town. I thought it was good, but I agree. It is. It's pretty straightforward, and I don't know. People have their own. It is what it is. Just
Yep.
read it, and there it is.
So we're moving on.
All right, we're gonna move on to executive
Session
two,
number
right?
two.
Number 2. All right. And so let me get this bigger here.
So this one was a fun one. This one was very exciting for me. 9 pages of executive session minutes, which
I want to make sure I got the right one.
is really quite impressive.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is a long one, and I couldn't get it on this, so I have to use a window, I think, to get this one on. But go ahead, you can start.
Okay,
and I'll keep
so-
working on it.
So first thing you'll see is the public present that we started to say with the last one was Teresa Kofsky, who's taken minutes, Rod Kincaid, who this executive session was about, Marie Arsenal, the town accountant, Lynn Foster, I believe her name is Lynn, might be Linda, Elle Foster, who's the clerk to the treasurer collector,
Mm-hmm.
and Joe Ballou, the chairman of the finance committee. That is a packed crowd in executive session.
It is crowded.
Yeah, this
Shoot.
we'll talk about in a little bit how it should have been 2 executive sessions. Elle Foster, and I apologize for not knowing your first name, should not have been involved in this first half of this meeting. You know, this is talking about the hours that her boss
agree.
had
100%
and the
agree.
problem with his timesheets. She has no say over that whatsoever and should not be party to this. but this board doesn't know any better.
Here we go.
So I won't even get into the Soto and the conflict of interest thing. But again, it's an interesting read. I would suggest you read it. Read it. You'll probably skim it the first time. Read it in depth the second time. It's going to take you a while to chew on everything that's here. There's nothing in here that was done correctly, except I will say Joe Blue was very good in saying this isn't my problem.
Right.
You know, which is exactly what he should have said.
Okay.
It's kind of a joke, but
Right.
he did the right thing.
All right. So it opens up with Mr. Soto asking that Teresa be not involved in it, from what I understand. Well, and that's, I think, because of the close proximity that everybody works in the annex. And
Right.
that was the gist that I got out of it. So, and that was not voted upon, so they kind of skimmed right over that.
Right.
Which, again, she's a professional. I have. Yeah, she.
You got no problem
She
with
should be. I have no problem with it. Agree.
So the next thing that I have is towards the end. Joe said that the board decided, that FinCom decided that based on state guidelines, they couldn't because they Marie and Rod and I believe Suzanne was also at the finance committee
Yes.
asking for a reserve fund transfer
Right.
to cover the deficit that was going to be created
Yeah, it's going to be
Because-
realized by the end of this year.
because this board didn't pay attention to his timesheets for the first 8 months of
Right.
his of the year.
So we talked about this a little bit before. We kind of threw out a little teaser, and we really, hopefully, everybody did your homework and read through. And if you haven't, you got to read through it. So what happened was, there was a communication that happened way back when, where the treasurer collector and the treasurer collector assistant talked about lowering his hours, raising her hours, taking the money, pooling it, divvying it up by 50%, and everything would be great. So they did that. I think that was wrong, because it just screws up all the bookkeeping and all the. There's no way that notation is any way, shape, or form clear anywhere in writing. There's just no way.
Right.
It's hard to do that, and have it carry over. So that happened, but then there was too much work in any given week to allow him to cut his hours back. So he kept the 40 hours instead of going down to 32. And effectively, that was the plea. That was kind of what happened. And so for months after that was changed, and her hours went up a little bit, and his hours supposedly went down, his hours didn't go down.
Right.
Well, the math just doesn't work, right? I mean, because the math was increased and the line item wasn't. So by October, it was realized that
By August,
it was certainly known that this was happening at the beginning of the fiscal year, July to August. So that was kind of known. By October, it kind of presented as, we better do something about it, because nothing was done between. I don't think it was discussed between August and October, was it?
not in any public meeting.
Okay, not in any public meeting. Understood.
There were discussions being had. People knew about it, but nothing. You
Right.
know, and this select board, you know, which they all ran on fiscal responsibility.
Right. Oh yeah.
These guys are the most spend-happy board I have ever
Don't
seen.
go on a tangent. Don't go on a tangent. Stay focused. I agree with you. I agree with you.
They found out about this reserve fund, and
Right.
they just think that this reserve fund means
Right.
it's in reserves. It's right over there,
Right.
and if we need it, just grab some
There
money,
you go.
Paul.
That's why
Need some
it's
money.
a slush fund.
Yeah.
It was kind of so. What happened is they went
What
to.
happened?
What happened was, again, they went over to FinCom and they said, "Hey, this happened."
Right.
And now, if you do the math, the amount of money that's in the line item is not going to last until the new fiscal year. And FinCom, rightfully so, said, okay, and stopped. And then they said, well, do something about it. And they said, well, we need a reserve transfer of money. And what they were looking for is money to be transferred from the reserve fund and to bolster up that line item so it would get through. Well, legally, and this is something I learned, I didn't know about this, to be honest. FinCom stated straight up, Massachusetts general law states that if it were a foreseen deficit, you cannot use reserve funds to fix the deficit.
The reserve fund is purely for unforeseen emergency issues.
All right. So that changes things a little bit, and they said, we all knew this was happening, or you all knew, somebody knew, because the math, you knew that you were taking more hours than you were supposed to take. Right from the get-go, you could foresee, if I get a budget of $100, and I'm taking a month for a year, and I'm taking 125, I know I'm not going to get to the year. So, I mean, and a treasurer ought to know that.
Yes.
Okay, because they're experts in the field. So that happened, and so FinCom said they kicked it back, and they said, well, figure out a solution.
And here on page 2, paragraph 3.
All right.
Martin Kelly stated that it was recommended to talk to FinCom. He doesn't say who recommended it or when it was recommended, but somebody knew to go and ask. Don't know if it happened. It didn't show up on FinCom's radar until October, and they basically said, figure it out. And it just kept going back and forth. Let's see. So then Rod Kincaid, this is on the next paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, on page 2. Rod Kincaid said he brought it up in August and then before the first Finance Committee in November. M. Kelly stated it was brought to his attention by M. Arsenal. So I would suggest, based on these minutes, if Rod brought it up in August, but Marty heard about it from Marie,
right,
that Marty found out about it before August, which would be July, which would be the start of the fiscal year, which would be what would be expected.
Right.
So, they've known about it since it started, since the first timesheet.
Right. Not just the way it goes.
And it's a bi-weekly timesheet.
Right.
So if Rod in August said he brought it up, and Marty states that it got brought to his attention by Marie before that, that's July. That's the first timesheet. Marty knew about it.
Right.
And they did nothing.
So what happened then on the subsequent timesheets that have been every week or every bi-weekly?
Same thing.
So it was always there, and
they approved it.
And they approved it instead of saying we got to nip this in the bud, because it was. And you could even, and I'm stretching here.
Can I say ipso facto?
Oh, you can. Yeah.
Ipso facto.
That's right.
They knew.
There you go.
And accepted it.
That's right. It's like Perry Mason or whatever. But what I would say is, if they went back to August and they said, this is unforeseen. We didn't expect not to be able to deal with this with 32 hours. We need both people at 40. They probably could have weaseled something together, to be honest. Now, why it couldn't be done with 2 people with 40 hours and another person with part-time at, I don't know how many hours she was working a week, but I'm not sure. But anyhow, this is the predicament they're in. We're in. I don't know how much more is there that we need to go over on this one.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think so too.
Let's see, but the executive session goes on and keeps.
Oh, it goes on forever. I'll slowly scroll down.
Yeah,
it's like it goes on. There are pages of it, and interesting stuff, because the more you read, the more you find out that that happened and this happened, and somebody told somewhere there were discussions, and somewhere the ball was dropped. It was just dropped. Yeah. And so what you end up with is, and I know for a fact that reserve fund was the safety net.
Yeah. Oh,
You know, that was going to be their way out. Well, you have to go to FinCom, and FinCom will have to help us out. And then, well, and then I think, didn't they talk about, I don't want to
so
get
we
my
got
stuff.
we got good notes. Let's keep
Okay,
going.
okay, all
Let's
right,
keep
go ahead.
going.
Well,
Okay. So now on page 123, first paragraph.
I gotta look. What
This
does
is
it look
this is
like? Oh, 1, 2, 3.
the esteemed
Wait,
George
wait.
Adams speaking,
Oh, I gotta
saying
go.
that he said that months go by after the meeting, and I believe the meeting was town meeting, but the pay never changed to reflect the 32 hours a week. Reduces. He continued that after town meeting. You know, I believe he's talking about months before July 1st.
Right.
Before July 1st, his salary was based on 40 hours a week. So he should have been working 40 hours a week.
Right.
And that shouldn't have changed after, FinCom or Select Board or whoever agreed that come July 1st, it'd be reduced to 32.
Correct.
He's on the hook until July 1 for 40 hours a week. Right. So it's only after July 1st that things should have changed. Mr. Adams stated that he had hoped that by August, Kincaid would have started giving himself the 32 hours a week rate, but this didn't happen. So again, they knew before August that he was doing it.
Right.
And hoped that he would just change it himself. What kind of a leader looks at a timesheet and signs off on that timesheet,
Right.
but privately hopes that someone might correct it?
Right. Right. What responsibility do you have to kind of say, hey, how are things going with this? You know what I mean? Maybe we need to kind of change things a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
So
then they were looking at...
He then says
okay.
that because of Rod Kincaid's action, they're in a situation where Marie Arsenal, the Finance Committee, and the Select Board are put in a difficult position. Why Rod?
Right.
As supervisors who knew back in presumably July or at least August, why didn't you fix the situation then? Why didn't you, as his supervisor, agree to change it?
Right.
This was money that's piling up that the town is going to have to pay.
Yep.
So
how are they going to pay it?
So this is interesting.
Should we go to that? Is that where we're at now?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So Rod says that he would gladly work less if he's told to, but he has to be told what he's not supposed to do, which just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So
again, what he's basically saying is, yeah, I'll work whatever hours you want me to work, but I can't get all the job requirement done. And so I'm going to have to not do payroll. I'm going to have to not do payroll for the school. I'm not going to do insurance for the school. I'm not going to pay out debtors or vendors. So it was a little bit of kind of a sarcastic thing, if you ask me.
Yeah, and
what do you want me not to do?
Ms. Collins restated that the town voted on 32 hours for him and 40 hours for Rebecca Smith. And to that I say, the town voted on a salary line item.
Right.
They didn't vote on hours.
No, the hours they did. They divvied up.
Right.
Yeah.
We had long conversations about it on how it was divvied up and how it was supposed to be per job description, but this board, the three, Collins, Kelly, and Leeming,
right,
fought very hard to make it so that he could drop his to 32, she could go up to 40, they could each balance out their salaries, which should never, ever have happened.
Right.
So then Ms. Collins asks our Chesty Morgan, got to put that in there, Mr. Kopelman, if he had any suggestions. And our good town council that we just hired suggested that because it was a mild winter and there was less plowing, that we might be able to get funds from the plowing line item.
Right.
Now, what do you think about that one?
All right. So, again, this is municipal fiscal management. If this were a business and your line item was in deficit, you can't just take another line item from your budget and just throw it at it without something being done. Like, everybody's got to know it. I mean, if you're your household, you could say, okay, we're not gonna eat out today, but we'll pay for gas or whatever. But in a line item municipal thing, you cannot just change, especially to offset a deficit. We already talked about that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the town voted a certain amount of money for snow plowing.
Right.
If that money got used, and there are ways in the last 2 months of the year to shift things around and pay any unseen debts, which is allowed. But again, it's usually for unforeseen stuff, and,
Right.
and it's you
And
can't
usually
just,
they're related.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so if IT, if there are computer maintenance and
Yeah.
there's like office, you can say, okay, we need a printer and there's no money. We could maybe you can make that work and make sense. And then you go to FinCom and say, this is what we're going to do. Again, it's all above board. You can't just take money out of the snow plowing and just say, oh, we have money, a little bit extra there, we're just going to put it in there. Because that's just not the way that's not the way it works. It just isn't the way it works. Otherwise, you would have done it with the reserve fund.
Right.
You just push it over and say whatever,
Yep. So
It shouldn't work that way, I guess. Maybe that should be.
yeah. So let's see. So then down at the bottom of this page, the second to last paragraph, George Adams is speaking again, and he reiterated that Rod Kincaid should have come to the board to express his issues, and he added that he didn't think Rod Kincaid or Rebecca Smith cut their salary way back during a board meeting made sense. So I guess maybe those are two different sentences.
Two different issues. Yeah,
But
that's okay.
he
That's
reiterated that Rod Kincaid should have come to the board to express his issues. Well,
sounds like he did.
He did.
Right? He did. To somebody.
Right.
To somebody, he did. And just either it got glossed over or the importance of what he was saying was missed.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to fiscal management, that could happen. But these are business owners and management people,
yeah.
and so that should have been picked up. It was picked up when we talked about it.
Right.
But anyhow,
Okay.
What else we got?
So, then on the next page, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph, this is when Joe, Ellen Berkovici,
Oh yeah.
Suzanne Collins asked what Joe Ballou's thoughts are, and Joe rightfully said that on this issue he has no thoughts.
Right.
Perfect sentiment. He should not be involved in any of this.
Right.
This, he's the solution guy.
Right.
You come to him and say, we think this is going to work. Can you make this work with the budget?
Right.
And he and his board will chew on that and say yay or nay.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
Right. This is not FinCom's problem. FinCom just needs to make sure that the money is going to the right places. That's their job. But this is not their problem.
Right. So later on in that paragraph, just a fun thing, Martin Kelly mentioned that it's technically a salary. What's technical about it?
This comes up again in this last meeting, and I want to bring it up later on.
Okay.
But the whole salary, not in this particular instance, but that whole essence of the salary. And I'll explain my point of view on it. Technically a salary. I don't really get it. I mean, what they did is what he's trying to say is you work for this amount of money no matter how many hours you have to work. And the reality is we're a part-time government in Brimfield, and that salary thing doesn't work.
Right.
Certainly not as easily as...
It's the base hours that you're expected to do.
Right.
You're expected to get the job done.
Right.
If you talk to past treasurer collectors who worked 60, 70 hours a week, every week to make sure that everything got done, they never complained about the salary.
Right.
They never put in 60 or 70 hours. They did it.
Right.
Same thing with select board assistant. Same thing with, every, highway, police. Every department head that we have, senior center, has never worked the suggested hours.
Right. It's always above and beyond. We all know that. And the reality is it's usually more salary hours than expected. The trouble is this particular line item was augmented to try to make it benchmark fair. right? And to represent the number of hours, and then it get converted into an hourly rate to make it work with the two different individuals. And that's what we said was wrong back in whenever that was, last spring. So anyhow,
so we also
and this is exactly why.
Have a comment. What is sad about this is that we, the town, voted to combine the two positions, 40 hours, and this was recommended by the sitting collector at the time, and the treasurer agreed to it. The treasurer took the position.
And it was also based on that transition in a lot of other communities.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yep.
And that comes up a couple of times because they try to divvy it up. Anyhow. Well, yeah, okay. We'll just let that go.
Right. Okay. So, let's see.
Anything else noteworthy on this? I don't want to skip too fast.
I know. So
let's see.
So, on the next page, Rod Kincaid said he doesn't want to resign.
Yep.
He doesn't see anything that shows where Rod Kincaid has cut back on hours, which was, who said that? Anthony Soto.
Right.
George Adams said that if Marie Arsenault didn't catch it, he would still be taking it. So, why did it take Marie to catch it?
Maybe, right? I mean, you think it would have gone all the way down to 0 if nobody said anything?
It kind of sounds to me like, George Adams knew about it in August. It sounds to me, you just read these back and forth and you can find holes in this.
There's lots of problems in this from a managerial, upper management. We talked about upper management, and the lack thereof.
Lack of leadership.
This is an issue.
A really great title of we could rename Brimfield Matters to Lack of Leadership.
No, because that. Okay, well, I guess we could.
Yeah. That'll be the subtitle.
Okay, the subtitle.
CSI Las Vegas. Brimfield Matters, Lack of Leadership.
All right, stay focused now.
Sorry.
Stay focused. All right. So then they were talking about how many weeks they have left. They're trying to figure out how to make the money work. And the reality is, there's not an easy way to make the money work. And then it doesn't really matter because he resigned.
Right.
So maybe we could skip it. There's a lot of it's interesting the way they were trying to make the money work. They were going to say, okay, use the rest of the money that's out there and divvy it up by how many weeks we have left, and go and let it go to 0. But whatever you get is what you get, and do the work. And I'm sure he was like, no. You know what I mean? Because it's if you think about the hourly rate, he's going to have to be working for a lot of hours that aren't paid.
Right.
But the thought is that he's already gotten that money. And so I thought that was interesting. What else? They were going to do something else.
Undercurrent
they wanted to pay it back.
Yes.
They wanted to pay it back. So whatever, 12,000, 15,000, whatever.
Yeah. Only 8,000 now.
Yeah, right. And so, okay, that's not gonna. So it was interesting, all the different ideas that they had. And the reality is that the lawyer must have kind of thought about it a bit and said, I can't make money show up where there isn't any.
Right.
And so, finally.
I also
scintillation.
In this conversation here, we've talked a lot about business owners and managerial, so at one point, Anthony asked Sue, as a business owner, we're talking about taxpayers' money, blah, blah, blah. Suzanne states, don't shame me. How's that shaming? I think that is a valid question. And, as a business owner,
I agree.
Don't you understand?
We understand payroll. You got to understand payroll. And you got to understand not having the payroll, the money to pay payroll. When you offer somebody something and you give them more, they take more. I mean, okay. So hypothetically, I'm just going to say hypothetically, if somebody knows this is their weekly salary, and hypothetically a person takes a little bit more every week, when does that become just wrong?
Right.
Like, really wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
I personally would say it's July 2nd.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I could see a mistake being made, but once it was made and said, hey, the boss says, hey, I can't work this way, then they should say, well, you can't work that way. Don't take the money anymore. And then if you keep taking the money out of the till, I don't know when that becomes a real issue.
Right.
And so maybe there's somebody that can tell me when that becomes a real issue. But I have to agree with Mr. Adams in there somewhere. Was like, he just thought it was deceitful. Now, I think he was somewhat complicit because he was involved in some of the discussion, but he also was taken aback by just the action thereof.
Yes.
And so,
yeah, and this is where he was saying in April, May, and June, he's still working 40 hours. He was supposed to. He was under contract, but
yeah, it wasn't changed. When was it changed?
It was changed July 1.
Oh yeah, they discussed it when we were on. Yeah. We had voted no,
but then nothing happens until the next fiscal year.
Until they went to the fiscal, until they went to town meeting, and then that's what they argued, and that's what they got. So, again, they got it because there were enough people there to vote for it. And so, if you don't go and vote for things can happen on town floor. Line item numbers can be changed on town floor. So, if you don't go to a meeting, that can happen, and it is what it is. So, all right. So what?
Right.
Watch the time.
I know. I'm doing it. I'm trying. So I'm going through a lot of good stuff here. So
I know this one's a heavy one.
Let's see. And I will give George and Anthony credit. Right. Through most of this, they are saying it is deceitful. It is wrong. I don't have trust in him. Right. Saying the right things.
Right.
So then we're going through, and again, if you haven't read these minutes, please do. They are worth reading.
Yeah, and then read them again because sometimes you need to digest it a little bit.
Yep. So then, I don't know.
No, that's okay. What's it start with?
So it starts with saying that this didn't happen.
Yep, I got it.
Okay. So 2/3 of the way down, now this starts the second executive session.
Oh, yes. This should have stopped.
Right.
They should have stopped.
They should have stopped all discussion about the treasurer collector.
Yep. How this got through legal counsel, it was crazy.
Called in Elle Foster, who could then cite her complaints. And she, I liked her comment of saying, she said that she was apparently the lucky loser when she was working in conditions like this.
Yeah. She was pretty colorful.
I don't like it.
She didn't hold back.
No.
I gotta say, she didn't hold back.
No. She then on the next page asked if she's a pawn in a game, because if she is, she doesn't appreciate it. In her whole 25 years of experience as a municipal employee, she's never seen such a lack of professionalism. She added that this is unacceptable. For that part, she's mostly talking about what happened during FinCom.
Yeah. So again, this is a little teaser, and this is great for FinCom's ratings on their video. Watch the FinCom meeting that this alludes to. Alludes to. I forget what the date was on that. I can't remember.
I don't know.
But it was a couple ago. Anyways, it was. It's worth watching.
Yeah. So she's holding Rod to task, and just saying it's too bad.
Yeah.
So then, right after that, I guess through the next page down to the last paragraph, that's all the Elle Foster executive session. Yeah. Now we're back to the original one.
Right.
Where I forget who it is, Lynn or Linda, and I hate that. Ms. Foster should have been excused, so they could talk again about Rod. So, as I said, through this, I was very happy to see that both George and Anthony was very critical. And Soto, so this is on the last page.
Last page, I got it. Yeah, that's what I'm on.
Soto asked if legal can advise on the issue. He explained that we could put the individual on paid leave until everything is figured out.
Again, what? I mean, I get that from a legal point.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do anything until you know something.
Right.
But it does nothing to help the town.
Right. And I guess there wasn't any real thing to look for. Paid leave is when you hear an accusation and you've got to investigate it.
Yeah.
This is pretty well cut and dry.
Everybody, yeah, the facts is the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Soto's defense, he says this is the only option he can think of right now, and that he couldn't stomach a taxpayer in this town or even looking in the mirror agreeing to move funds around to solve this.
All right.
S. Collins assured him that this is not what will happen. Well, if you look at the first pages, that's exactly what they were trying to figure out.
Exactly what they went to
That's why
FinCom
they
to
went to
do.
FinCom. Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So
Again, yeah.
so that's all good. But then, so after, Mr. Adams and Mr. Soto were very, using deceitful, using untrustworthy, all this stuff.
Right.
S. Collins makes a motion to take what's left of R. Kincaid's salary, divide it by 20 weeks, divided by 32 hours, and that's what we will pay him. That motion is seconded by George Adams.
I know.
You know,
Right. I mean, have to stand up and say no. You know it's going to pass. You get five people, and you know that it's going to pass.
Yeah.
At least three are going to vote for it.
The vote passed, passed 4-1.
Okay.
So
stand
Adams
up.
not only seconded
Do
it,
what
but
you
then,
think is right. Step up. I mean, even if you know it's going to pass, you can at least voice your opinion. If you're anyhow.
Yeah. So then Mr. Soto made a motion to cut a check for what he owes to the town of Brimfield and then look at legal counsel for what the next steps are, and there was no second.
Right.
So very interesting, juicy minutes.
It was interesting. I mean, sometimes you have to just vote what you think is right, even if you know it's not going to have a long-term effect. You don't have to vote just because you think the vote is going to go in a certain direction. How many times did we vote against something that we knew was going to pass?
Oh yeah.
And that that last spring, the last 8 months of actually more than that, whatever it was, but because you knew it was going to pass, even if it was like this is not the way to go, you want to at least go down stating and supporting what you've been stating for the last your argument. State your argument. Say no. If it passes, it passes. That's okay. No, it was okay, but it just
How are you
happened.
sitting up right now? Because you got a backbone?
I got a backbone. Yeah. All right, I like it. All right. So now I'm going to get rid of that. Whew, that was a lot. And what should we put up?
Should we go caucus?
Yeah. So, and I'm going to put
So
up...
this is going to be quick again.
Yeah, this is going to be real quick because I'm going to put this up. That was the advertising that we used last week. So I wasn't able to attend, and I know it wasn't recorded from what I understand, but I do know that when
it was live. So
Live?
on TV.
See, the trouble is I can't cut the cord, so I have to. I don't know if I can.
It should
be
be
recorded.
saved. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Outstanding. If it's recorded, I know it's not up now because I looked. I know that when you have a caucus, you immediately the first thing to do is to appoint like a moderator.
Yep.
And a secretary to take notes. And so there will be minutes of the caucus. Now, I wasn't there, so I'll probably have to defer as far as how things went.
So it was interesting. I think people saw this online, maybe on Facebook. This was
What is that?
this was
I did see that
piece
online.
of paper
Yep.
that was in the town hall after the caucus. It was folded like this so that nobody could see what was in it.
Sure.
So it's just a very strange thing. To me, it looks like directions on who the primary candidate is, who the secondary is.
All right.
Yeah.
So
So
was that given out outside?
I have no idea if it was given out at all.
Okay.
There were
There was
multiple
just
copies. There were multiple copies where I found this.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I don't know. So
I guess
it's very strange.
I guess that's not illegal. It's if someone has to pass out notes beforehand to make people remember what to do, but as long as it didn't happen within a certain. Well, I don't even know if the caucus. And I actually asked this question of the town clerk.
Yeah.
So, in an election, you cannot campaign within 150 feet.
That's only on election day.
Right. So a caucus, I don't think that matters. But I don't know that, so
Yeah.
I asked for clarification because I couldn't find it anywhere
Right.
in the Mass General Law.
It was interesting.
It is interesting.
I wanted to bring it up because it was an interesting piece. So what happened was they nominated Mitch Fraser to be the caucus moderator.
Gotcha. All right.
So he's in charge of, asking for votes, asking for nominations, asking for seconds, and then voting as needed.
So effectively, he becomes the chair of that meeting. He
Correct.
is the kind of the main kingpin of the meeting that kind of runs things.
Right. So first item on the agenda was picking a moderator. Mitch Fraser got nominated. This is the town moderator.
So nominations for the moderator position for the next town meeting, because it's a 1-year position.
It's actually changed to 3 at the last town meeting.
Oh, okay. So
We
one
changed
when I
that to
looked at-
3.
Okay. all
Yeah.
right. That's a good idea.
So, Mitch Fraser got nominated. They asked for others, and this is where I wasn't really thinking about much. Mr. Miller had called me and asked if I would nominate him, and I didn't want to be the one because honestly, it was Paul and I can sometimes be considered fractious in the community.
That's a word on the street, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. So more so you, but
Okay. Dang.
I don't think that's true.
No, it's no.
But whatever the case, I waited a little bit, and before it was all done, I nominated him. There were multiple seconds in the room, and so he was on. As soon as we did that, Kevin Moore, which again just strikes me as interesting because you look at what's highlighted, and then you've got the secondary.
Right.
And that's Mr. Moore. And that's just, so he was on, and now there was a vote. And the vote happened, everybody raised their hands. Mitch Fraser won the vote, by a long shot.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you if Mr. Miller or Mr. Moore got more votes. I was in the back of the room. I wasn't counting. I wasn't, paying close attention.
Mm-hmm.
There looked to be equal numbers to me, but I could be way off.
Gotcha.
I didn't look everywhere around the room, so there you go. So at the end of that, Mr. Fraser stated that it was going to be himself, Mitch Fraser, and Mike Miller on the ballot, because you can only have 2 on the ballot.
Gotcha.
So all the other appointments go as planned, and I'm happy to state that the selectman candidate, Mike Cordy, he's on the ballot.
Nice.
I know nothing about him. Never heard of him. Never seen him. Actually, last at the caucus was the first time I'd ever.
I think I met him once. Just because through a mutual friend, but it was a way back. It was way back.
Yeah. So and then Paul Vandal, who you worked with.
Yeah. Yep. He's a
fireman,
business owner.
business owner.
He lives in town. He's a firefighter.
He's on ZBA currently.
Yep.
He's involved.
Yep. He's been on the select board before. Good guy. Yep.
Yeah. Quiet but fair.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else went as planned. At the end of the meeting, Mitch spoke up and said, and it was, again, weird wording. It caught me off guard. I don't even know what he exactly said, but basically just said, in the moderator vote, it's going to be myself and Kevin Moore running.
Okay.
No votes.
So there was a change from that.
From the
vote,
first.
and then it happened. Okay.
Yeah.
And they didn't explain why.
No, and I don't recall him saying any numbers, so it wasn't like, Mitch Fraser, 1,000 votes, Mike Miller, 200 votes, and, Kevin Moore,
Right.
101, whatever.
And there is a way, I gotta read it again, because there's a caucus Mass General Law, and I think that if there is a tie, it's that close, I think you can actually have 3 on it, to be honest. But I'm not exactly sure how that would play into this, what the numbers were. So, for full disclosure, I wasn't there, and I didn't realize that it may have been recorded, and I certainly haven't seen a recording. But there is a Mass General Law has, if you question some of the caucus proceedings, you have to get it in. So Mass General Law says that the caucus has to be in, all the information has to be in between, I think it's 72 hours from 5 o'clock on the day of the caucus. I think that's how it works, something like that. And if you have a question about it, you can question it within 2 days of that.
Oh, okay.
And so that I asked just for clarification. So it may just be as easy as like the numbers are this, it's all good. I just wanted to make sure that it was on the up and up, because quite honestly, I wonder if a moderator is part of the election and then they're the one that actually is running and declares the winner, if that person should have recused themselves.
Oh yeah.
I think that was, well, I think it was wrong. I think it's obviously wrong that it should have been picked up on. But it might not be wrong if the clerk didn't pick up on it, if it wasn't that egregiously wrong. So I asked for clarification that it's probably nothing. But I do want to make sure that we get some information about that. It just doesn't seem right to me.
It really, and I hate to bring the clerk into this, but, it really is one of those things that it just doesn't smell right. When you've got a new, somebody running for moderator the first time, declaring at one point, I'm running against the incumbent,
right?
Who's been the moderator for many years.
Yeah, something like that.
And then at the end of the meeting, he says, "Oh,
by the way,
I'm running against a guy who's never been it."
Right.
And there's other things and everything else.
It's interesting.
I mean, it just didn't smell right.
And it probably deserves a little bit more of an explanation at the time, and obviously it didn't get that.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping I get an explanation, and I'll come back next week on the show and let you know what I find out, because I do think that it does deserve a little bit of clarification. So we'll do that.
And in full disclosure, I don't have the best memory. And there may have been more, and especially when I'm not too happy about something.
Well, I heard a couple of things from different people.
Okay.
And so I think it deserves clarification. Again, it's not a big deal. If they say, oh yeah, we checked it, these are the numbers, it was all good, the minutes say this and that, and the video supports everything. Listen, I'm not going to argue about it, but I just wanted to make sure that it is that way, because I just want to make sure, because there are some questions and the people asked, and I don't have an answer because I wasn't there. Your memory apparently is. We'll talk about that. Galova, whatever.
Yeah.
But we do need to get some clarification, and so I think they have. I think I did. I don't remember. They have like 4 days to get back with that, and it should be straight up. If they can look at the video, read the minutes, it should be that email that I'll get back. It'll be like, yep, it's all good.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it, and we'll go with that. So whatever they say, we'll go with. All right. So that beats the caucus down, I think.
Yep.
All right.
So we're down to one more item. Look at this. I like this. This is my new thing. I'm just gonna make a paper.
I didn't have that on when you did it.
Oh,
you want to pick it up again? You can do that.
No, that's okay.
That's all right.
I'm throwing the paper now.
Yeah. All right. So, there you go. All right.
It's
so
like Dennis Miller.
Exactly
That's
right. Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right. So this. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. And we got like 6 minutes to do it because we went too far. All right.
I think we're going to go over an hour tonight.
A little bit. So let's go through real quickly. I'm just going to leave the agenda up, and we're going to go through the.
Okay.
They did.
Interim treasury collector.
They did actually have IT support come in first. All right. So
That's
when you watch the video,
yes.
IT support comes in. They kind of threw Tentesco under the bus a little bit, saying that half the stuff they ordered was incompatible, and I'm not sure where they're going with that. But they also
it's the CARES Act stuff. That could be.
Well, right, because they're still waiting.
That could be a good.
Yeah, there's still a lot of
excuse.
computers that are waiting out in the wings to get to hopefully become part of what people are using on a day-to-day basis. But I don't know. So they also kind of mentioned that they couldn't get in and get all the information they needed to because they couldn't get passwords to the servers, to the firewall. and I guess I don't know, they were talking about Mr. Burke helping him out to get that as well. So right now, I don't know. Anyhow, so they're going to look at a proposal. The proposal was interesting. It wasn't to take everything over like a manager.
Yeah, it kind of a la carte
piecemeal,
menu.
Fix this and then come back and fix that, and
we'll
so
do blocks of hours.
Yeah, that's kind of strange to me.
Yeah, well, that's how MSPs work.
Yeah, do they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So that's good to know.
Yeah. I forget what I was going to say.
No, that's okay. So that's the IT thing, and I think that was good. There was when they were taking the minutes, they were looking at the minutes, and they found that they made a change in the minutes for the building committee from Mr. Miller, because he's asked that it be amended to show that he didn't cancel for the whole building committee for that open house. He just said, I cannot come. Everybody else is, I can't speak for everybody else, kind of thing.
Yep.
And so Mr. Bergvici actually made that amendment. It almost wasn't going to happen, but then.
Yeah, well, that's where it was like, you're revising minutes that we approved, but we didn't see.
Right.
So we have to undo, rescind the approval of the minutes that we didn't see, although we approved them. It's just weird.
So that was a good one, and I think that was deservedly done, and Mr. Miller asked that happen, and so they did.
Yes.
So they did fix that. So, all right, then we get down to the resignation, and I'm gonna, this is like minute 23, going in minute 23.24. The resignation of Miss Rebecca Smith as the interim treasurer collector position that they had just put her in a couple of meetings ago. They put her into that position solely. And so it's interesting because then they were saying, oh, that's really bad. And Miss Collins said she is staying on as the collector, and she is certified as a collector.
Correct.
And then the administrative assistant stepped in and said, well, no, she's staying on as the assistant treasurer collector.
Right.
All right. And so, and then they all agreed that was going to happen, and so that was it. So I guess they accept the resignation, and they all accepted that clarification.
Correct.
What they didn't do is talk about hours and money.
Never do.
And so I think that was a mistake, because now that job is changed, and it's changed dramatically, right? And so from what it was anyway. So I don't know I don't know what they decided on money. If she'll still be getting the 40 hours at half the pay of the double when they pull them. I don't know.
Right.
But
assistant treasurer collector money.
So
that should have been, or what?
Or could have been. What could have been? I don't even know anymore. And maybe FinCom will know. Who knows? We'll know. All right, then we get down to the police department.
Police department.
Oh, this is nice actually. So it was really nice accolades to give the police department some positive, but
it was good
feedback. Yep.
But it was all staged. Again, I'm so glad that Ms. Collins has learned to say thank you to employees.
I agree with that.
That is very good.
That was a positive part of it.
But she did this one, while kicking the previous police chief down.
Oh yeah, there's a passive aggressive nature to the way it was put out.
The community policing has been going on forever.
Right.
The police officer that this board got rid of, 2 years ago, was instrumental in starting a High Five Friday or something
at the school.
Yeah. I mean, he was a great school.
So again, there was definitely a passive aggressive nature to the way to say, oh yeah, these guys are. But what I took from it was this: there's extra security measures at the school and at the bank, and they were in response to everything that is going on. And that's a quote. And this is at minute 24:13. So it starts. I didn't hear of any threats in Brimfield, and if this is related to what happened in Tennessee and what happened in Louisville, I don't know was this supposed to be some sort of an incendiary thing that was going to be every bank, every school across the country? I mean, what do they know that we don't know? And or is that like in response to everything that's
And
going on?
it
We should
would've
all
just
go
been
to
good
yeah,
for
you do it.
clarification.
Yeah, I mean, just for clarification, was there a threat or was there not a real threat?
Right.
And
either way, it's good that the police are there.
I agree. But let's call it what it is. I mean, I do agree that they need to make their presence known, and they are doing it.
Yeah.
But don't make it like in response to everything that's going on. I don't know. Anyhow, to me that just didn't really. It just didn't seem like it was, unless there's something going on that we don't know, and that may be true, and they can't talk about it.
Right.
All right. Send a letter of praise. That's always a good thing, but empty gestures are kind of disingenuous. So that's kind of what I wrote. All right.
All right, we can skip down.
Yeah, we'll skip down because I do think that their intervention with the interaction with the community is really, really important.
Yes.
And that's a very positive thing. I've heard nothing but good things about the police. I set off a phone alarm when I was out doing yard work the other day, and I didn't hear it because it had music on and all. And so they were very nice when they came by and said, "Are you in trouble?" And I said, "Well, I am threatened, but not right this second."
Yeah.
But no, but they were very, I mean, again, they're a nice crew, and we are very, very glad to have them.
Oh yeah,
All right.
they've always been that
All right. Yeah.
that department for what it is. You know, a part-time department. We have the best man for man that,
Yeah.
and we've always had them.
100%. All right. So they kind of, I didn't even hear anything about the rec committee for having their open
Yeah,
Jamboree.
we can skip right over that.
Yeah, we're going to skip over the things that are
flea market
relatively
owner-operator
easy,
license.
licensing, blah, yeah. So that's all good. The treasurer services, this is an interesting one. So, all right. So the person who is up speaking was Marie, and she is our accountant. And so she's basically saying that they've talked to somebody named Hannah. I don't know what the company was.
It's the company that they hired to do to assist. So, and this is my takeaway is, and I might take some of your thunder. And
No. This is okay. This is all right. I don't want this thunder, to be honest.
Yeah, they hired a company because they were low bid, and they were offering services for $95 an hour.
Oh, I do remember that. Yeah.
And what I heard was that it wasn't all that great service, and they were doing more training than being trained.
Gotcha.
So now they're at a point that now they need someone better.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that low bid, $1 or $95 an hour person.
Oh, it's gone.
It's gone, and now they're expecting between 170 and
I have it.
200?
I have it right here. I have what she said. Basically, here it goes. So there are two things that have to be done. Harper's payroll, all right. So the payroll services. So they need a senior staff position at that consultation company.
Yep.
All right. $160 an hour. It'll vary. We get that. I don't want to hear that. Sorry. It'll vary because every other week it's going to be different. All right. What they have to do. There's no set number. They don't know what that's going to cost. So, and there's something about agency checks, and there's also something about Marie can't do a lot of it because she's not bonded. So there are some limitations to what can be done in house. So and Rebecca was uncomfortable in one of those roles again, as I would be.
Oh yeah,
I would definitely be a little bit uncomfortable. So they asked about long distance training. Well, they said yes, they could do long distance training, but there's no one to train because there's no treasurer there. There's an assistant, and I'm not sure that that's going to fly as far as what it would cost to train someone to be a treasurer. So anyways, so that's one thing. The other part of it was this cash book and banking, and I think this is where the bonding actually may have been the issue, to be more on this part of it. You need an assistant controller at $180 an hour. Expect 8 to 16 hours a week. That's kind of what she said. So $1,400 to $2,800 per week for the expected near future.
Yeah.
Per week.
Yeah, I mean, and that doesn't include Harper's.
Right. Those are two separate services that are coming in. So this is, and I'm not saying that we have much of a choice at this point. I don't think we do. Because they can't get anybody to do the job.
So that's the other part, was talking about the the job description and
Right.
you know how there's been no applicants.
Right.
Well, when you run this type of a show for as
Right.
long as you have, and you spiral through good people
Right.
that go on to different places that people are looking for mentorship,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the word gets out,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's coming to roost, and it's really too bad.
Yeah, this is a tough one because it gets around. The people that are going to come into town are already, they all know each other. They all talk. They all know what's
yeah, it's
going
a
on.
very
It's a small
small
group,
circle.
right? And so then there's the Treasurers Association, and there was a question about reaching out for possible help. And Anthony Soto, to his credit, said, have we reached out? And I think Ms. Collins said, yes, we've reached out. We put an ad on their newsletter. And he said, well, no, not for an ad, but reach out for help. You
Right.
know, like
Can someone come in
a
part-time
red
and
flag,
help
like
us?
SOS help. What can we do? What can the state do? What can the Treasurer Association, that group, do to help us out to get us over a bind and maybe make things palatable?
What position is vacant?
Treasurer Collector.
Treasurer collector. Okay.
Yep.
So it's treasurer collector. They're looking on the Treasurer Collector Association for this job description, and yeah, it was the main mass.
Okay, the
Yeah.
Treasurer Collectors group.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
And
Good.
they've put the job description out. Nobody wants it.
Right.
Well, and at a FinCom meeting, they were saying how it, they thought it was a treasurer, but they found out that treasurer collector is the right way to go. It's where we should be,
Right.
which is what the town voted for. So they kind of have to be that way.
Right.
But if you pay attention to my screen, Dr. McCarthy,
Oh yeah.
what's the job
Oh
opportunity
God. Yeah.
that's listed on our Brimfield, Mass website?
Town Treasurer.
Town treasurer,
Yeah.
not treasurer collector. They haven't updated it on our website.
Right.
I'm gonna guess they haven't updated it on.
I'll let you go there, and I'm going to just mention. So they talked. Mr. Soto asked, "Well, can we reach out to somebody higher up in that organization and talk with them and just see if they have any options to maybe offer?" And it was bounced around a little bit. This is the job of the chair. I'm sorry. This is the CEO or whatever you want to call yourself. You gotta make a phone call. You gotta do something. And what do? They said, "Oh, is this something Teresa can do?" And they all looked at Teresa, and Teresa's like, "Yeah, I'm sure," and she probably will. But the reality is, someone needs to get off their rear end and make a phone call and kind of earn the job titles that they have. What do you got to say?
So actually, on MMA, the
Yep.
Mass Municipal Organization, they don't even have it listed. It's not listed here at all. It probably timed out.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, ads run for 30 days, or until the application deadline. So
Is that the only page?
that's the only. So I searched on treasurer, so all the treasurer collectors come up and everything else. So
Okay.
there isn't anything in here.
So, I guess maybe Teresa, can you put it back up on there and maybe reach out?
And
The town would be grateful.
you know, I believe Ms. Collins said that she put it up on, or actually she asked Teresa about when it was put up on the site on the Mass Treasurer Collectors Association.
Right.
It was 6 weeks ago, so that's probably also timed out.
Oh, right.
You know, or it's got the wrong title, or
Right.
Whatever.
All right. So there it is. So we'll see what happens with that. So now let's see the next. Let me see what the next one was because this gets.
Oh, the budget was interesting to see. They walked through the budget. Nobody had been able to look at it. They wanted to take 2 more weeks. And
Oh yeah.
Mr. Kelly said it was okay. We can.
We could wait 2 weeks, and then there was a lot of whispering, and then it was like, "Oh, FinCom's meeting tomorrow," so they want to have some numbers back to us.
And the best line was,
"That's great."
Mr. Kelly states that if things change, it's okay because we are the board where the budget ends,
Right.
not begins.
And yeah, I think he says that way at the end of the night. Yeah,
Yeah.
when they talk about it. Yeah, this is where the budget ends. It's like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. Let's see, FinCom meeting next day. So the microphone, unfortunately for
Teresa.
Teresa was just in
Wasn't
and
very
out,
good.
and I know she. had trouble. I think she was sharing the microphone, so that was a little bit of a snafu. And there were lots of little comments that you couldn't hear as well. You know what I mean? So we would really ask that the people use a microphone and speak up. And if you're in the public, like the police chief, it'd be nice if they kind of come up to the microphone and talk, because it just makes things a lot easier. But should we go through real quickly? I mean, real quickly, because there's a lot.
And I did get a text saying that
We should stop. No, stop.
That the moderator for the caucus was supposed to be Jim Donovan, but there was a forest fire and all of the firemen were busy.
Yeah, but you vote for that position at the time.
True.
You know what I mean? You make the moderator. It depends on who shows up. Anybody could be, say, I'll be moderator.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it just doesn't really matter. But I get it. There's no supposed to be.
Yeah.
He was probably going to offer it and then get voted in because, well, whatever. But I don't think there's a mandate. So
hey, just saying.
All right. No, point well taken. So they went through line item by line item. I thought the interesting one, town council was like there's still $22,000 in the budget, which I know we've been yelled at for spending excessively on some of these
open meeting violations.
But there are still a lot of reviews to do. They still have to review the warrant for the ATM for the annual town meeting, and they have to. And I don't know. There was a quote that Teresa said that was an uptick of legal reviews. And I don't know what that means.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that means. So maybe they're looking at some other things. Maybe the contract for the ambulance, maybe stuff like that. So there may be a lot.
There's also the planning board and conservation that uses them.
Right. So there may be some other things that are going to be coming out of that. They talked about insurance and whatnot, and utilities and the phones, and there's a lot of, I don't know what to make of all that. The internet, telephone. I know there's the voice over internet. There was some issues, and I know they're going to. Yeah, it is what it is. That all just needs to get clarified. There's not much you can do about some of these infrastructure things.
There's a lot that we have to go through, and we have to keep moving.
Yeah, we do. Let's see, emergency management director, the funding, I think they're going to keep that straight up. They were going to talk to animal. I thought the animal control one, I'm not going to beat this too much, but it was interesting that it came up because I thought there was an agreement, a regional agreement.
They're still working on it.
So yeah, because then they said, maybe they have somebody that's interested in it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, do these other regions know? Do these other towns know? Because they're thinking, all right, we can pool our data and our money and our ideas and get this to work. But if someone just pulls out at the last second, they're gonna be mad. I mean, I would be mad.
Oh yeah, and so the other thing that I thought was interesting was, Teresa was kind of looking at the at the animal control budget and saying, for some reason the animal control and the barn inspector got pushed together.
Right.
Well, it's always been that way, and it's been that way on purpose because it's much better for a barn inspector to be able to look at these animals in a barn inspector comes in and looks at an animal in the fall to make sure that they're looking good for winter. And then if they don't, if they're not, she's gonna, he or she will come back and make sure that the plan is in place and that these animals are gonna make it. Right. And it helps a farmer out.
Right. And
as an animal control officer, you get the calls for, the raccoons, for everything else, but you also get it for sick animals.
Right.
And having the same person can monitor these sick animals through the year. Monitor the calls that otherwise the barn inspector won't know. Right. But that being beside the point, I've got a fairly large farm in town.
Right.
And this year we changed, instead of having the merged animal control officer and barn inspector, we went to the barn inspector from Wales. And the interesting thing is, for the first time since I've had a farm, I was not inspected.
Oh.
So the animal control officer always inspected my barn.
Right.
My farm. Wherever that was, either Board of Health or Police Department. Mm-hmm. I always got an inspection. This year, that barn inspector did not show up to my property. Still got paid.
Right.
So
Right.
You know, how good is the barn inspector actually working?
Yeah, if they don't. All right.
So anyway.
All right. So we'll go over animal. Let's see. Ambulance contracts don't seem to be done yet. So I guess that's. So I don't know if that number. I mean, obviously they should go up with that number because it's gonna have to go up. Now whether it's 5% or 25%, we don't know what that's gonna be yet, to be honest. So we'll have to see how that works. But all right. What was the?
Yeah, I think we can go skip over the rest of the budgets.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was it. It was only the accountant.
Okay.
All right. If you don't mind, we'll talk about the town accountant because she came up and they said she wasn't looking for anything initially. She wasn't, and she came out of retirement to help out several years ago, and she's been great. She wasn't planning on an increase, and she didn't really know. But right now, she's over a hot plate.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because she knows, and she's a good person. And so the town is like very, very, very lucky to have her. But, February 9th, her workload is well low. She's got to take over those 40 hours that are gone, right? And do as much as she can. Now she's got to orchestrate the payroll and the banking. And so there's a lot going on. And so she's asking for a little bit more, I think. Mr. Soto asked if she had an office. She needs an assistant. It's like, and we need to train someone in case she's not able to do it. It's like, yeah, that would be gravy on top of things. We're just trying to tread water, unfortunately, and it's been that way for a bit. But so I think you'll notice that there will be something with the accountant, that line item that's going to have to be addressed to make up this difference.
And once again, they're trying to make. They're going to try to get the cemetery commission to move.
Right. Yeah,
and that's just a whole nother side.
We have. So then there was a $50,000. What was it? The article.
Yeah. For the gazebo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what that was. So they authorized it. The way I understood it. All right, and you could probably know this more than I. The way I understood it is that they needed it in there, but they expected to get reimbursed from the state.
Right.
So, but they wanted it in there to pay off the people who did the work, and then they're expecting a check to come in from the state as a reimbursement.
Right.
Is that how you thought it? Yeah, that's how I got it.
But, the big question I have is, we got a grant for $289,000.
Yes.
That coupled with $11,000 brings it up to $300,000, and then they already got $50,000.
Right.
So that's $350,000 for the gazebo. How much money did this gazebo actually cost? And it's beautiful.
Oh, it is good. Yeah, it's nice.
But the $350,000 or the $289,000, paid for all of the pathways, the lights,
right.
And the crosswalk on North Main.
Right.
Some signage.
So anyhow, we'll see. I don't know, but maybe somebody needs to ask at a public meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Let's run through. I don't want to go too long. So McClure Engineering about the operator agreement. So that's the well thing that's been going on between the school and the safety complex. So it's probably going to be split between the school and the safety complex. The school, don't forget, is our budget. So even though we say it's split with the school, it's still our budget. It just goes in,
But
in a different
that is
direction.
a good thing. A certified operator agreement.
Yeah.
For
Stop
public
what
water
they're
supply.
doing. Right.
Yeah.
Stop this piecemeal stuff that's going on.
Yep.
I agree. All right. Let's see.
IT services have already been done. Building committee.
Yep. They wanted that RFQ for an OPM, a project manager. I get.
Yeah.
This is something, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they need it to kind of get things rolling. So I'm fine with that.
Rail trail update. They're doing that bridge.
Yep.
Looks like it's going.
Good money.
Good for them.
Permit Pro.
Yeah.
Let's just throw it away. So Permit Pro came about. I thought it was the assessor's office that kind of came to us saying, "Hey, we have this. We'd like to kind of introduce it and get it going."
Yeah.
What I really noticed was the lack of the assessor's office at this discussion.
Yeah.
And so I really hope that they kind of knocked on their door and said, "Hey, we're about to do this. I hope you know, because tomorrow you won't be using it.
Yeah.
And then what happens when they don't? Maybe just said, okay, this is the last year we're going to use it, but they actually voted not to use it.
Oh yeah, discontinued it as of Monday night.
So instead of just saying, well, let's go, and then we get another company, maybe we could transfer all that data, because you can do that with the
What really
software.
got me,
Mhm.
what really got me was, you know, I do software and mapping for a living, and I actually wrote my own permitting software. And listening to the complaints that were given last night,
Mhm.
you know, emails aren't being sent as they're supposed to. It's tough for how it comes out for finance.
Right.
There's different triggers and they're not working right. None of that is a bad program. It's a bad configuration.
Right.
It's a bad setup.
Right.
That could all be resolved by calling the company and saying, hey, if we give you a couple more bucks, which stinks and you shouldn't have to do it,
Right.
but it's the cost of doing business.
Right.
Can you make this email work? Or if
Right.
it's in the contract, just make it so.
Right. Or you'll look for another company and say, hey, I just talked to this company and they can do that. You do that. You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Just say, we're looking at, maybe switching. There are multiple companies that are out there that can do it. That was even mentioned in the thing. But to think that this whole cloud thing is scary and something that we should shy away from, and you need to have a packet of papers on the wall and use a pencil and bring it in. I'm sorry. I mean, as Mayberry as we want to be, that's just not the way life is going. And if we want to pretend that we're all Luddites and we don't want to do that, we're going to get lost.
Oh yeah.
And that just isn't the way to go.
Even more so, every building permit that has been issued since Permit Pro,
Mhm.
as long as we keep the data, is considered archivable.
Right.
So we don't need to keep paper copies. You can put as many paper copies up as you want for your current and active permits.
Right.
But you're not required to keep them by law.
Right.
As soon as you discontinue that, we're going to start.
Storage units.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it happening.
We're accumulating more paper every day.
Right. Because we don't have the place to do it.
Over 2,000 permits a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of.
Yeah. So anyhow, Permit Pro's out. I don't know if they're going to entertain another one or not. I'm hoping that they do, because it just makes sense, because we're in the 21st century.
Yeah. And to George Adams' credit, he did successfully keep the line item for the software in place.
Right. And if anything, it should be bounced, because a new company's probably going to be more next year than it was with Permit Pro keeping. So it probably ought to be bounced up a little bit. But I would suggest that they do that. Oh, all right. Yep. So let's see.
So now we've got the building commissioner and the tent permits.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't much going on there.
Not much going on.
We would okay. So this started. When did that start here? Oh, this. So that was after like minute one. So it was hour 1:21. I think it started somewhere around there. Interesting. A few of the people that are involved as flea market operators left. The ones that stay behind, Mr. Berkovisi, Mr. Soto, and Mr. Adams. And so
wasn't there a vendor on the church property that had a tent?
The Rascals or something like that.
Yeah. Huh.
Yep. I don't know. Yep. I think so. I don't know when that was, or if that's every year or not. But it's come up in the past. So anyways, they the big thing when Mr.
Didn't want to say any more about that?
Nope, don't want to say anything more about that, because I think So the building inspector, zoning officer, or whatever you want to the title, but Mr. Cantel, he came in and basically opened it with why am I here?
What do you want to know?
Why am I here?
So this was discussed 4 meetings ago?
Yep.
2 months ago, maybe?
And he was looking into the bylaws, and he was looking into the state laws and codes, and he had he had kind of a vision of where he wanted to go.
Oh, I thought it was decided that that meeting where he was going.
Yeah, I think
and they approved it without much discussion.
Right. Well, but then they had a promoters meeting, and I think it was discussed then.
Wait, so the promoters meeting, who would have gone to that?
The promoters. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know who was there. I mean, I see what you. So I know Mr. Adams was there because he said he went to the promoters meeting, and I can only surmise that Mr. Kelly and Ms. Collins were not present. I would have to think that, otherwise it would have been a meeting. It would have been
an open
meeting.
One of them could have been there.
One of them,
but if both of them were there,
then that would have been problematic. And even,
yeah.
One, and but they did deliberate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
they gave George marching orders.
Yeah, they talked about it because if you watch that video, you'll hear
Mr.
Adams talk about negotiation terms.
Oh, well,
yeah. They came back and they'd be okay with 3 weeks on either side of the 1 week or 6 days opening, and that's really the terms that they wanted to negotiate for. And to Mr. Cantel's credit, he sat there and goes, "These are codes. These are building. You don't negotiate with the building inspector or the electrical inspector or the plumber when they come to your house and you say, 'Oh, I know I'm supposed to have a pitch of this much for my drainage. I'm going to go at half that. What do you think about that? We've got to negotiate that pitch.'" It doesn't go that way. Code is code. And he even said, "I don't really understand what that means." Now, there is that whole permitting thing, and I want to make it very clear that Mr. Adams was saying, well, the other side of town, if they get a permit, they can get a piece of paper that says what dates they need to have it and what it's used for. And Mr. Kendall said yes. And Mr. Adams said, well, why can't this part of town do that? And Mr. Cantel very eloquently said, if they do, they'll be getting a permit for every tent, and it could backfire because if they have a tent that's 400 square feet with sides, and 700 square feet without sides, then you need to permit that continuously for every 30 days. You have to get re-inspection. It would open up a whole can of new code.
This is where, there were intimations of stuff like this when I was on the board.
Right.
And we didn't go too far because we did not want to push this issue.
Right.
Mr. Adams, in his ignorance and desire to work for the show promoters, opened up a can that, hopefully can be closed again.
Right.
This, you don't want to touch this stuff.
Right. So, the inspector basically said, we are doing a favor because we're doing a permit for the operator's field. And it's, right now, it's as easy as he can make it.
Oh, yeah.
If you really
And it's as inexpensive as he can make it.
Right. And so I know every time these come up, there is this idea that everybody is against the show. And it's not. So the building inspector has a certain code, and he is using that code to his best of his ability to not screw people as operators.
And he has an obligation to maintain that code.
Right.
And that's the big thing is, if he allows something that's against the code, it could ruin his career.
Right, and the town, because he even said if something would happen in a liability and somebody got hurt or property damage, the town would be liable if we didn't follow the code. So, and Mr. Adams was like, well, why can't you do it on an individual basis? Well, if you do that on an individual basis, it's going to be labor intensive. 2, it's going to be costly. And one, what if a tent needs to be put up 2 weeks, 3 weeks before everybody else for vendors that want to put their stuff under it for whatever? He goes, well, yeah, you can do that. But that's going to be a separate tent. And the promoters aren't going to want that.
Right.
They're not. So he already is given 14 days before, 17 days before, 14 days afterwards. And he said, that's more than ample. It should be more than ample.
And George kept going back to if Cumberland Farms wants it, or if Francesco's COVID.
Right.
There's a huge difference. On a very small scale, there was a small tent that was left up. I don't think it was even. I don't think it would even have to be permitted. But there was a tent left up on a field, wasn't pushed in correctly, and it blew across Mill Lane. Mill Lane isn't that big a road, so it didn't really matter that much.
Right.
But if that had gone across Route 20 at the wrong time,
oh yeah,
that could have caused an accident.
It could have been
property damage.
And the state would have been on his rear end because it's a state road. And then the liability, I mean, when you get an accident on a state road, you're going to sue everybody. I mean, and that's going to happen. Yeah. So it was, the other thing that came up was,
But first, going on to Francesco's.
Oh yeah.
So you do have a lot of fields that are left unattended between the shows. There aren't, I'm going to say half the fields aren't lived on when the show isn't going on.
Right.
So any of those that could pose a danger.
Right.
I've been camping before where I've been in a windstorm with my tent.
Yeah, I was in a tornado once.
Well, you've been in a tornado with a tent?
Yeah. Well, we went to the bathroom in Arkansas. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were.
You got me beat.
It was interesting.
But Mr. Adams being a scoutmaster, I'm assuming he camps every now and again. I'm sure he's had stakes pull out because of wind.
Right.
Same thing. It's a much bigger stake, but that happens on an unattended tent.
Right.
When you're talking about a Francesco's that are having customers there every day.
And it's big equipment. It's big.
But that's what everybody has.
Yeah. No, I know.
Those can still get pulled out. But if it happened at Francesco's, they would see it.
Right. And I think the other thing that they're getting confused is the COVID allowance for a certain the tents. That's over now. I mean, that just actually today I think it ended.
Oh yeah.
But if they want to have a tent outside, they are going to have to go with every 30 days getting it inspected. That's how it's going to work. And he was very upfront about that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a different animal. So the safety issues are going to have to be offset by the fees or the business. I guess how did he put it? Mr. Adams said they're going to lose business by what? I don't really get it. By the fines or whatever. There aren't going to be any huge fines. They just want to get these companies to come in and clean up the tents.
And that's the other false flag that they're going by. And I understand it, and it's maybe not false because somebody could come in and start issuing $100 citations every day until they're down.
Sure.
But Broomfield has never been like that.
No.
I don't believe that Mr. Cantel is going to be like that. He came to us and talked about the cargo containers.
Right.
The box containers.
Right.
He was talking about it again, that was probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
That he started this process where he said if they're not down, they're going to get fined.
Right.
He's still talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's working with the field owners. And the field owners, I would hope that they feel some level of comfort with him because he has been cooperative in trying to work on it.
Right. Yeah, the other thing, I think, just a few things that came up, because I know we're going way over today, but this is really exciting stuff. There's a lot on this that needs to be ironed out. And the reality is it's not against the flea market. This is a code. Right. These are code violations or code standards that he's got to maintain.
Just a minimum set.
Right.
The town is very business friendly towards the flea market.
Exactly. And then, the whole idea of it being detrimental, that kept coming up, is business for safety, and that's, I get it, and so I'm not sure where that kept coming up in the conversation. But the other thing is that it's very clear that the zoning officer has given considerable leeway in how he's implementing these codes, and I think he's being very upfront about it, and people should realize that that's what he's doing, and I'm not sure they do. Mr. Adams also asked for the evidence and the reasons why these codes have to be the way they are, and that's not his job. It's not
right. It's a state code.
It's a state code. You want to know? Go to the state. Yeah. Go ask somebody who makes these codes law, and then. But that was let's see what else.
So do you have somewhere in there? He was also saying that.
Oh,
there
it is right there.
Yes.
1:41:25. This is
Say
really
that
almost
again.
like
1 hour, 40 minutes, 25 seconds.
Yep. This is almost like a state conspiracy thing, because the way it came off, Mr. Adams thinks that the building code was just built for taxes and not for safety. And so it's like, and again, Mr. Cantrell, I gotta give him credit. He said, that's not for me to decide. Again, it's not my position to explain the code. It's my position to enforce it. And once that got through, well, it didn't get through, but once that kind of would get through, this would have been a lot quicker of a discussion.
Yeah, and again, if it were all about taxes, the building commissioner could levy so many more dollars worth of taxes on every tenant.
Right.
Which is what Mr. Cantrell said.
Right, and then if there's a double standard that Mr. Adams was proposing, the double standard is in the favor of the promoters.
Oh yeah.
Because they're doing everything they can to not make it so that every tent gets a permit. If you start putting these tents together, you know what? Your footage, your square foot area is bigger, and then that demands a whole different avenue of inspection. So, yeah, there's a lot there that he's just
and I don't think there's a double standard there. I don't think the field owners have expressed that.
Right.
I think the town has just done what the town always does and tries to work with the
Mr.
residents.
Adams said it was a double standard.
Yeah, against the field.
Yeah, against the field.
Yeah, but I'm saying
that it's not.
It's not a double standard on
at all
either side.
Yeah.
I
get it.
I don't know.
All right, because we don't want to be a big heap of hurt.
That's right.
I definitely don't want that. So let's see. They kept going back to the COVID. Francesco's a few times, and then I think it was again at 1:49. All I'm asking is to consider their terms. Literally, that was the quote.
Yeah.
So this is not a negotiation of code, and I said that already, so I'm not going to reiterate that again. All right.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so
it was very interesting.
Very interesting.
And unfortunately, you can see where this board that segment really showed where this board is coming from.
Yeah, I don't know why that discussion went on for 30 minutes and why they need to be in support. This board needs to be in support of their zoning officer.
Yes.
End of story.
Especially since the selectmen have no authority whatsoever on the zoning codes and the enforcement.
Right.
Mr. Cantrell came and told them and let them know what was going on, and they approved what he was doing.
Right.
Before they, the same type of thing as the minutes.
Right.
Before they disapproved of them, but they didn't disapprove. They left basically saying, they are your codes and you can do what you want.
Right.
My fear is that,
but
doing what he wants, the majority of these select board members, not field owners.
Freudian.
Are in charge of appointing him.
Right.
And I hope that there's no repercussions for
that
Mr. Cantrell trying to do what he feels is in the best interest of the town.
Right. Yeah. No. 100%.
Which is still in huge favor to the field owners.
What this did is take an issue of, we're looking at the permitting law, we're looking at the code, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm, trying to do the right thing with everybody. And what it's going to do, it's going to go back to social media and what goes up and down Route 20, and it's going to come back as the town is trying to get rid of the promoters of the show. And unfortunately, you got to listen to the whole conversation, and you can't just say that, Mr. Adams went in good faith with negotiation tactics and didn't get what we wanted. Well, you know what? That's not what it was never going to happen. Right? Because the law is the law, and you just got to read it.
Yeah.
And then you'll know.
So much more that Mr. Cantrell could do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he had to say some of those things in public.
Right.
And
instead of people being aware of it, instead of the board should be aware of it. This should never have gotten out like this. This should never happened.
This board never ceases to amaze me that the stuff that should be public discussion isn't.
Right.
But they want to bring this up in public.
Right. And then they already had this discussion, so they knew where he was coming from. He already reiterated the facts. To bring him up and then have it be like, oh, we already have this negotiation terms, and to make this as if this were a negotiation.
Yeah.
They made a huge mistake, and they did a disservice again to the field owners as a group. And what they've done is they're going to make things even more divisive.
Right.
With this, I mean, they're just going to.
Yep.
Because there's no way there's no way this is going to be interpreted anything differently.
Yeah. If Mr. Adams was purely interested in what's best for the businesses in town, in regards to the building committee or building department, he should start pushing for what Mr. Pfeiffer has wanted for a long time, which is lower building permit fees,
Right.
which the select board does have say over.
Right.
And he could help out lowering the building permit fees,
Right.
which would be helpful.
Yeah, and that's come up, and there is discussion on that one, and certainly Mr. Cantel has his thoughts and what he envisions as proper, but that's come up in the past as well. No, I agree, but that's an avenue that they could go down. But this, well, one, whether he's a promoter, whether he makes money off the flea market, if the flea market does badly, or if people are mad at him, do they not come? Mr. Adams, he probably shouldn't have been leading this discussion.
Right.
But if we assume that that's all above and board and it's been already washed, that's all fine. He should never have come out of a promoters meeting representing the promoters, because you know what? He represents the town. And if he was coming in with that idea, he should have been on the other side of that table as a resident. And Mr. Bercovici or Mr. Soto should have been behind the table with the microphone saying, I'm going to run this, and you guys make your points. Don't talk to each other, talk to me, and this will get your stuff out, and I'm going to run it. He should never have run that meeting.
That's a very good point.
But yeah, I don't. So I think there were balls dropped. They should never have invited him to that meeting. Mr. Cantel will get.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So
all right.
No.
Wow. This
Hour and a half later.
Longest one, right?
Yeah. Hour and 45 minutes.
There was a lot, though. And
Thank you for staying
with us. And I
apologize.
I would binge watch it in increments of 15, 20 minutes maybe. I should have separated it that way. Just like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bathroom break.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Snack break.
We could have made it like a Netflix show. Like, you got to stop and watch the next one.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, listen. Couple things. There is, let's see if I have this. There is a town, is it the town cleanup this?
Is it this weekend or next weekend?
Let me see, I thought I had
maybe
it.
this weekend.
I thought I had it, but I don't.
All right.
Maybe I don't.
You can look online.
Yeah, there's a town, the town cleanup, and I just want to kind of give a shout out to the scouts who are involved in that. That's been going on since, I want to say 2007, something like that. Because I remember I think my kids were in Cub Scouts way back in the day, and so I don't think they cleaned up anything. But they probably move things around a little bit when you're a Cub Scout or Weevil or whatever it is. But then
Mr. Rowe and Mr. Brown.
Yes. Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Brown, yeah, I remember. And then that went, with the Boy Scouts in 2010. I remember my kids were doing it then, and so it's been around. It's a good service to the community. We do appreciate their activity and trying to keep this town clean. If it's not, I'll have to see. I guess it's on the website, on the calendar. I just thought I had it. Maybe I don't though. I don't seem to have it. Oh well. I got all excited with the other stuff. So anyhow, look on the website. It's on the calendar right on the front page, as we kind of demonstrated last time. And so everybody else have a good weekend.
Yeah.
A week, I guess. And we'll see you next week. We don't have a meeting, but
hopefully it'll be slow.
No doubt it'll be a very positive, just kind of a revamp what's going on. And maybe we'll talk about FinCom's meeting.
Yes.
Because that should be posted pretty soon. And that would be an easy one, hopefully. We'll talk about that a little bit with some less controversy, I guess. All right, anyway.
All right. Have a good night.
You guys
good
all
week.
Be good, and we'll talk to everybody later.
I'm
gonna fade into it. Ooh. All right.